In this video, man, we're getting into my predictions for WWE and Mattel in 2026. And this isn't necessarily going to be what figures necessarily. It will be in some cases, and I'll get into that. But I'm going to predict some different things for WWE and Mattel and kind of what I expect out of the year and what I expect to see in 2026. So let's get into it, man. Let's start off my list right here. And the first thing I want to touch on and talk about is going to be a few different things when it comes to the design and tooling process. As we know, in 2025, we did see Magic come back to the Mattel design team, and so we do have kind of, I do believe, two different head designers when it comes to the WWE Elite and the WWE Ultimate Edition action figures, and so we do know Bill was one of the main creators of the line and a lot of the decision making, and then when Magic came over, he was able to take some of that workload away from Bill, and therefore I think it kind of breathed in a breath of fresh air to the design process, to the design team, because if one person is not working on so many figures at once, they can take a step back and they can see the bigger picture when it comes into designing these figures, getting better formulas, better designs, better critiques, all those different things. And I think it leads to an overwhelming better process. And I think we saw some of that in 2025, especially at Comic-Con. You saw a bunch of new figures revealed, a lot new designs, and a lot more tooling introduced into the line. And so that introduces what I think to expect out of 2026 mainly. And what I'm most excited for is I think we're going to see more unique torsos like we saw with the Roman Reigns figure, like we saw with the CM Punk. And we did see some other figures as well. Those were just kind of the standouts in the top picks wave. We got to see those unique torsos kind of replacing those older torsos. And not to say that the Daniel Bryan torso or the Ultimate Warrior torso is going to be retired forever, but it is something to kind of see where I could see them moving away from some of those older things and continuing to introduce some newer molds, some newer things that we have not seen in over 15 years. You know, some of these torsos that have been around forever are finally going to bite the dust. Now, we'll see which ones they are, which ones they select, and things like that and everything. But I think getting these newer, unique torsos and molds is huge. And I could see, you know, those older torsos from, 2010, 2011, all the way up till 2025. One torso that comes to mind is kind of the Cody Rhodes torso or the Finn Balor torso. Not a bad torso, but it's been used for so many characters over so many years that I could see them, retiring that one sooner or later. Same thing with the Daniel Bryan torso like we touched on. So I think we're going to continue to see that moving forward. I think that's going to be a trend. I don't think that was a one-off. I think that's going to kind of be not necessarily industry standard, but for Mattel and WWE and wrestling action figures from them specifically, I think that may end up being something that we see way more often in 2026 that I'm excited for, especially on new reveals and new figures coming soon. But unique torsos, old torsos and molds and things retiring. We saw it with the John Cena shoe mold as well. So those are some things. I also, in 2025, we got to see the ball joint torso or lower torso introduced in the Ultimate Edition line. We saw this on the Tiffany Stratton Ultimate Edition, which was a fantastic figure. If you guys missed our ranking videos of all the different WWE Elites and Ultimates and awards, that Tiffany Stratton figure was a standout for 2025. Any way you slice it, that was one of my favorite figures from 2025. It was an outstanding figure, and one of the reasons that is because they introduced a ball joint at the crotch that connected to the lower torso. Now, you may say, what's a big deal about that? Is whatever. And I know a lot of people don't really care about this, but for me and my action figure collecting, I want the figures to move well, man. I want them to be able to do these things that we see on TV. I want them to be able to pose the best that they possibly can. You pick it up and be able to put it in these crazy poses similar to, a Marvel Legend or an SH Figure Arts or any other figure line out there that exists. You can pick them up and you can pose them around and do some crazy things. And that ball joint in the hip or in the crotch connecting to the lower torso allows for a better range of motion, and we saw this out of the AEW figures. That was one of their big features, was the ball joint at the waist, so that you're able to get a really deep ab crunch and you're able to get these great poses. And not only that, we got to see that introduced into the Elite line with a couple China figures. So China's Elites are going to have that same feature, and I think that's massive, because if they're going to implement it into the Elites in the lower part of the torso, that's huge, because maybe we could see that into the men's as well. And I think they're definitely going to slowly but surely, similar to what we saw with interchangeable hands, right? It would start off with a couple figures, then it moved into a full-time thing. Same thing with the double jointed arms. We got it in that Elite 85 Bray Wyatt. They continue to push it out into every figure moving forward. And again, it became kind of that industry standard that we've seen. And so I say this, I think we're going to get a ball joint waist on a men's Ultimate in 2026. And I had a dream the other night that it was Cody Rhodes. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case. I'm just putting it out there that I had that that dream and it was a whatever. I get dreams all the time about finding figures on toy hunts. I have dreams all the time about action figures. It's specifically what we do here, wrestling action figures. But one of my predictions is going to be just getting more unique torsos, ball joint waist on a men's figure. I think that is absolutely coming, and I think that in my dream it was Cody Rhodes. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be a Legends talent. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that's going to be something that they continue to put out there. And maybe, just maybe, it'll end up happening to Elite figures as well, man. Imagine that. Imagine a lot of men's Elites moving forward getting that ball joint at the waist. Could be an absolute game changer for every collector out there, man. We'll have to see. But this is a huge thing that I'm looking forward to in 2026 to see the innovations come out. But that takes me into another thing I expect to see. We got to see new title molds in 2025. We saw the World Heavyweight Championship with Rick Rude, and we got to see that unfold into a few new figures. We know we're getting multiples of that going into 2026 as well. And the Winged Eagle also got a brand newly tooled championship. We saw it on the Defining Moments Cody Rhodes, which we have already reviewed here on the channel, so that's also massive. But now I think the question is going to be which figure or which belt is going to be next. And you have to think that it's going to be one of those, it's not going to be a new championship, of course, is going to get new tooling because it's a brand new championship. We saw this with the World Tag Titles. We saw this with the Speed Championship. Those championships are really well executed. But some of these older championships that have been around for a very long time, I would love to see them try a new Undisputed Championship or a new Big Eagle or some of these other championships. I would really love to see that. So maybe those will be the selection. I don't know, but I think it's definitely possible that we will get newly tooled championships as well in 2026. And again, it's just going to be what championship is it going to be. They definitely knocked it out of the park with the World Heavyweight Championship and the Winged Eagle, but I'm excited to see what happens next in that era and what we get and what championship it's going to be. But I definitely think that we will see new title belt molds. Next up, I want to get into the head sculpts, man. For some reason, Mattel loves to do this. I think it's definitely going to be one of those things where we get those crazy head sculpts. We've seen this over the years. I will pop up many examples of what I'm talking about, man. Mattel likes to take these leaps and do these crazy heads on these figures, and they go for these crazy moments and likenesses, and they go for the one-of-one moments. So I think that is going to continue to happen in 2026, man. Something that, they've been kind of known for, doing memes and doing different goofy things overall. I call it goofy heads or whatever. We've seen that over the time. I think they're going to continue to do that. I think sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're really good, and then sometimes they are not, but hopefully they'll continue to get that right, and we will see that trend continue, because I think it's sometimes it's very goofy, like I stated, but it's really fun. It's kind of, it's what it's about, collecting and making these things fun and doing little fun things like that in the line. Got to keep it fresh, got to keep it fun, so makes sense to me. But I think one of the big predictions I have for this year, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I could be completely wrong. I could strike out right here. But I'm going to predict the return of Macho Man. I'm going to predict the return of Macho Man. I think we get him announced, and I don't know when, maybe WrestleMania, maybe at Comic-Con. I have no idea. And again, I could be completely missing the mark here. But it was WrestleMania 39 where we saw that Ultimate Edition Macho Man, and then it was shortly thereafter where it was revealed that it was canceled, but that was so many years ago now, and I think that it may be time that he finally returns and we get some Macho Man action figures. And if he does sign, if they got him back under a deal, they are going to push out so many damn Macho Men, and we've seen many examples of this with the Great Muta. I think Great Muta is already off a deal. I could be wrong there, but we do know, I think we have one or two more Great Mutas coming out. But, they use that opportunity to pump out as many Great Mutas as possible. Saw the same thing with Jesse Ventura. I think we've heard that Jesse Ventura is already off a Legends deal as well. So with Jesse Ventura, what did they do, man? At Comic-Con, they revealed so many damn Jesse Venturas that they have been working on. He got a retro and a elite, or a couple of elites. He's getting 2 ultimates, and he's got the LJN coming out. He's got the retro. There's just so many figures coming of him. So, that's just one of those things that they have been doing, is they get a guy or they get somebody under contract, man, they push them out like it's going out of style. And I think that if Macho Man does return, they are going to pump so many damn Macho Men out, man. But I hope that we see the return of Macho Man. That was one of my predictions right there. But I'm also going to make a prediction here, and I hope I'm wrong on this, but I don't think, and I could be, again, completely wrong here, but with so many things questionable up and in the air, I'm going to say that we probably don't see anything about the Crowdfunder, at least for a while, and I don't know if that'll be for the complete year. I know it's not going to be anytime soon. We do know back at Comic-Con, I think it was it Comic-Con or WrestleMania where I don't think we did an interview for WrestleMania because of time constraints. So at Comic-Con, remember, they gave us an update on that and said that it had been pushed back, and I think that's probably going to continue into 2026. I just don't think much has changed in the grand scheme of things. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe they have some other exciting projects that they're working on or something like that, but as far as a crowdfunder or as far as some big scale project like that, I don't foresee that taking place, and I'm very much waiting on that to continue. I'm excited for them to, give us an update on that, but I do not think that we're going to get an update on that, at least any progression. I don't say update, I say any progression. I don't expect us to have, them put up something for order at WrestleMania or Comic-Con. I think that, that's just something that's still up in the air, and there's a lot of uncertainties, unless I guess they could have figured it out. Maybe they figured it out and got around it, or figured out a way around it, or figured out a loophole or something like that. I guess that's possible, but I just think that, I don't know, man, I don't have high hopes, at least this year, for the crowdfunder, but I hope I'm wrong on that one. Again, I'm just kind of putting that out there to see where you guys are at as well. And then my last prediction is going to be, at the time of recording this is before Monday Night Raw. This is on a Saturday. That is going to be on Monday night. There's so many rumors out there that Chris Jericho is showing up, or that he's going to be in WWE again, and if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and predict it right now. I think in 2026 we're going to get some sort of ringside exclusive special edition, made to order ultimate something. We're going to get something Chris Jericho this year by the year's end, if he debuts on Monday Night Raw. If he does indeed debut on Monday Night Raw, he will be just like CM Punk. He will be like Cody Rhodes. He will be that type of character where we're going to fast track that man as fast as possible. We're going to get oh dude, Jesus Christ, Chris Jericho was one of my favorite of all time. He's one of my favorites ever, and he, especially growing up as a kid, he was one of my first favorite wrestlers as I tuned in and became. If it were not for Chris Jericho, would I even be a wrestling fan? Who knows? He's that type of character for me. So I think that we're going to get so many iterations of him if he returns. I can't wait to see From the Vault, WrestleMania 18, Chris Jericho. I hope they From the Vault, the Damn, or Greatest Hits, the Defining Moments, Chris Jericho, which is one of my favorite elites ever. There's so many different things they can do, and there's so many attires I would love them to do. So I hope that's the case, and I'm just going to predict if he does show up on Monday night, or we get some sort of debut from Chris Jericho very soon, we will see some Chris Jericho shish in 2026. So that should be fun, but I'm getting the hell out, man. That is pretty much going to wrap it up for me. Again, a little bit of a different deal here, but I wanted to get on here and talk about some of these things here that I want to see or expect to see out of Mattel and WWE in 2026, man. But that is going to wrap it up for me. Hope you guys did enjoy. I'd love to know all of your thoughts down below. But I'm getting out. I'll see you guys next time. Have a blessed one. I'll catch you guys later.